Hi, boys and girls. We are going to read Junie B. Jones' One-Man Band by Barbara Park and illustrated by Denise Brunkus. And here is Room 1, First Grade, Friends. The teacher, Mr. Scary. There's Junie B., Tattletale May, Herb, Lenny, Jose, Sheldon, Shirley, Lucille, Roger, Camille, and Chenille. And here we go. We have 9 chapters in this story. This is a longer one. The first one is Kicking the Cow. There's Junie B. writing in her diary. Her journal. Chapter 1, Kicking the Cow. Monday. Dear First Grade Journal, a kickball tournament. He's trying to spell it right. The whole entire first grade is going to have a kickball tournament. My teacher told us that news last week, and I can't even stop thinking about it. Our families are going to come and everything. I've been practicing my kicking every day after school. I can kick high and low and fast and slow and to and fro and pro and con. When I grow up, I will have my own kicking show on TV, probably. From Junie B., first grader. I smiled at that nice thought. Then I peeked over the side of my desk, and I tried to wiggle my pinky toe, my piggy toe. Piggy. It still felt sore. That's because yesterday a little trouble happened when I was practicing in my backyard, and it's called I accidentally kicked my ball over the fence, and I didn't want to get it, so I had to find something else to kick. And then, I spied Mother's brand new watering can. It was the one with the funny cow painted on it, and it was sitting right out in the middle of the yard. I laughed out loud at that perfect target. I bet I can kick that silly cow right over the moon, I said, and then I rubbed my hands together, very excited, and I backed all the way up to the fence. Then, vroom! I took off running, and zoom! I ran faster and faster, and kaboom! I kicked that can as hard as I could, and owie, ow, ow! That dumb bunny can was filled full of water, and nobody even told me about that problem. I fell down in the grass, very painful. Then I rolled around and around, and I hollered real loud, "My toe! My toe! My toe!" I hollered, "My toe! My toe! My toe!" Mother hurried to the back door. "Junie B! Oh, my goodness, what's wrong?" she called. "My toe is wrong! My toe is wrong! 911! 911! I yelled. Mother hurried outside and took off my shoe and sock, and she looked at my toe. "Ow! Ow! Ow!" I yelled again. My mother hugged me. "And what in the world did you do to hurt it so badly?" she asked. "Did you trip over the rock or something?" I did a gulp. 'Cause maybe I shouldn't mention that I kicked her can, possibly. Mother waited for me to answer. Then, very slow, her eyes glanced over to her cow. He had a giant dent in his head. Also, his nose did not look normal. Mother did a frown. "Junie B," she said, very suspicious, "what's the story here?" I looked back at her, real impressed. That woman is sharp as a tack, I tell you. Finally, I did a sigh, and I told her the story here. "Yeah, only this wasn't even my fault, Mother," I said. "It really, really wasn't, on account of at first I was practicing my kicking, and then my ball went over the fence, and so what was I supposed to do? Kick air?" I did a thumbs up. "But good news," I said, "'cause just then I saw your cow can, and so I ran at him with all my might, and then I kicked him as hard as I could. Only too bad for me, 'cause that stupid thing was filled with water, and now I have a smashed piggy toe." I thought for a minute, and then I folded my hands in my lap, very quiet. "The end," I said. Mother did not look happy with me. "Gee, imagine that. A watering can actually had water in it. How unusual," she said. That is called sarcastic, I believe. And after that, Mother carried me inside and she called the doctor, and he told her to raise it up on a pillow and use ice. And so guess what? At first, it felt a little better. Only this morning when I got dressed, it hurt to put on my shoe, and so, even though it was chilly outside, Mother said I could wear sandals to school. And so that's how come I keep checking on it this morning to see if it's feeling any better. I closed my journal real quiet, and then I bent over in my chair and I patted my toe very gentle. Next to me, May made a face. "You shouldn't play with your feet, Junie B," she whispered. "Playing with feet is what stinky people do." I stuck up my tongue at that girl. I still get a kick out of that behavior. After that, I sat back up again, and I stacked my first grade dictionary on top of my journal. And then I laid my head on my desk, and I daydreamed about the kickball tournament some more. In my dream, I was the only person in room 1 who could kick the ball. That's because all the other children in room 1 had a broken leg. On account of accidents happen sometimes. And so I played to the tournament all by myself, and I won the whole darn thing without any help. I was the star of room 1, and all of my friends shouted and cheered, and then they hugged me very happy, and they threw confetti on my head, only not for May. May threw a small potato. That was uncalled for, I believe. Chapter 2. More piggy problems. I stayed in my daydream a real long time. Also, I think I snored a little bit. Then all of a sudden, smack! Mr. Scary clapped his loud hands together. And that noise scared the daylights out of me, I tell you. I jumped straight up in my seat and my arms flinged out very crazy. And then my hand knocked into my dictionary. And oh no, that heavy book went over the edge of my desk and it landed on my sore toe. Ow! I shouted real loud. Ow, 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 ow! I reached for my foot and I started to cry. Mr. Scary came running back to me, and then he quick sent Herbert to school nurse to get some ice. And hooray for Herbert, 'cause he brought that woman back with him. Her name is Mrs. Weller. I know her from previous accidents. Mrs. Weller gave me some tissues, and she put an ice bag on my piggy toe. It felt heavy and soggy on that sore guy. I pulled my foot away, but she put it right back again. "Please, Junie B," said Mrs. Weller. "If you just keep this ice on your toe, it will start to feel better, I promise." I shook my head real fast. "No, it won't, Mrs. Weller," I said. "I know it won't, 'cause Mother already put ice on that same toe yesterday, but today it still hurt, and that's how come I had to wear sandals to school." "Oh dear," she said. "You mean this poor toe was already injured before you came to school today?" I did a sniffle. "Yes," I said. "It was injured a real lot, Mrs. Weller, on account of yesterday I kicked a cow, and that thing was solid as a rock, I tell you." Mrs. Weller's face went funny. You kicked a cow?" she said real soft. "Yes," I said, "and the cow was full of water, and the cow full of water doesn't even budge." After that, Mrs. Weller got very speechless, and she didn't ask any more questions. She just kept holding the ice bag on my foot. Plus also she mumbled to herself. Room 1 stretched their necks to see my foot. Then Shirley stood up, and she said that she knows just how I feel, 'cause one time she accidentally kicked a brick, and that did not feel good either. And then Roger said he hurt his toe before too, 'cause last year he accidentally kicked a refrigerator repair truck. Plus a boy named Sheldon said that last summer he accidentally kicked a giant tree stump, on account of his cousin told him it was made out of rubber. Only it wasn't, said Sheldon, very upset. It was made out of tree, and so all of my toes got their heads bashed in. After that, Sheldon put his foot up on his desk, and he started taking off his shoe to show us. Mr. Scary held up his hand. "No, Sheldon, please, that's really not necessary," he said. But Sheldon quick yanked off his shoe and sock, and he raised his piggies way high in the air. "See, everybody? See the baby one? The baby one still has a little red knob on it, on the side of it," he said. "See?" And just then, Sheldon tipped his chair back on two legs so he could raise his foot even higher. Only too bad for him, because quick as a blink, his chair legs slid out from underneath him. And boom! He went crashing into the aisle, and his forehead got a knob on it, just like his baby toe. Mrs. Weller quick grabbed the ice bag from my foot, and she put it on Sheldon's head. She said he needed to come to the office with her right away. Only wait till you hear this. Sheldon didn't even cry. Instead, he left the ice bag on his head, and he put his shoe and sock back on very calm, and he walked to the door with Mrs. Weller. And all of us clapped and clapped for that brave boy. Sheldon smiled when he heard that, and then he turned around. Then he did a bow, and the ice bag fell off of his head. Chapter 3. More Bad News. Mother came to get me from school that day. She said she would drive me and Sheldon home so we wouldn't have to take the bus. I walked to the parking lot, very limping. Sheldon was still wearing the ice bag on the top of his head. My, it must have been quite a day in room 1, said Mother. Sheldon did a sigh. I've had better, he said. After that, both of us got back in the back seat and we buckled our seat belts. Sheldon quick put his window down. Mother turned around. Gee, I don't know, Sheldon, she said. That's going to be a lot of wind on you, don't you think? I like wind, said Sheldon. Wind makes my cheeks flap. Mother stared at him a second. Okie doke, she said, kind of quiet. Then she turned back around and she started the car and we drove out of the parking lot. Sheldon leaned his head close to the window and he tilted his head into the rushy air. He opened his mouth so the wind flapped his cheeks. And both of us started to laugh, only just then a little bit of trouble happened, 'cause Mother went around a corner kind of whizzy, and Sheldon's head got tilted even further, and whoosh! The ice bag blew right out the window. Sheldon sat very still after that, and finally he closed the window and he drummed his fingers on the seat. Today isn't really going that good for me, he said. I nodded. Then I patted his arm, 'cause sometimes I understand that boy perfectly well. That night I tossed and turned in my bed 'cause my toe did not like things touching it, that's why. Not even the sheet. Only here's the worstest part of all, because the next morning when I took off my covers, my whole entire toenail was black. I did a scream at that terrible sight. Mother and Daddy came running. Junie B, what on earth is the matter? Said Mother. My toe is the matter. My toe is the matter, I hollered back. Look, look, look. I held up my foot for Mother to see. Oh my, she said. The doctor said this might happen. Your toenail has a bad bruise on it. I wrinkled my eyebrows at her. A bruise? I said. That's all it is? It's just a bruise? My mother nodded. Yes, it's just a bruise, Junie B, she said, but I'm afraid it's going to be a little painful to wear shoes for a while. Daddy sat down next to me. Don't worry, honey, though. As soon as it grows out, it'll look normal again. And he pointed to his bare foot. Look at mine. I've bruised my big toenail many times over the years, but it's always grown out as good as new. See? I looked at it and made a face. Daddy's big toe is not attractive. And just then tears came to my eyes. I touched my toe very gentle. Ow, 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 it hurts even worser than yesterday, I said. And so now what am I supposed to do? 'Cause I don't even want to wear sandals to school again, on account of sandals don't protect toes from getting hurt. Mother thought for a minute. Then she went to my closet and she got out my old red sneakers and she cut a hole in the top of them with scissors. She held it up for me to see. Ta-da! She said real singy. And ha! What do you know? The hole was right where my sore piggy toe would be. Mother helped me put on my red socks and then she slit the holy sneaker on my foot very careful. And surprise, surprise, it didn't even hurt. Hardly. After breakfast, Mother drove me to school again. Only at first, when I was to my room, I felt kind of shy about my sneaker hole. And so I snuck to my seat and I showed it to my friend Herb in private. And guess what? Herbert's whole face lighted up. "A window," he said. "You've got a window in your shoe." I did a giggle at that idea. "Hey, yeah," I said, "a piggy toe window." And just then, Sheldon came hurrying into room 1. He had a shiny red Band-Aid on his forehead. He stood in the front of the room and he pointed to it with his finger. "No one touch this, please," he said real loud. He turned to Mr. Scary. "Even though I came back to school today, I'm still not totally right up here," he said. Mr. Scary nodded. "Oh, yes, Sheldon, I'm very aware of that," he said. Sheldon kept on talking. "I probably shouldn't play in the kickball tournament on Friday either," he said, "because what if I'm standing at home plate and a ball starts rolling at me and then it hits a rock and it bounces up and smacks me in the Band-Aid and I get a bump on top of my bump?" He did a little shiver. "Double bumps would not be good," he said. Mr. Scary looked at him. "No, Sheldon, double bumps would not be good," he said. "But don't worry. Between now and then, I'm sure we can come up with something else you can do in the tournament." After that, Mr. Scary glanced over at me. "And don't you worry either, Junie B," he said. "We'll think of something else you can do, too, okay?" I raised my eyebrows at that guy. "Yeah, but I don't want to do something else, Mr. Scary. I want to play the kickball game. I've been practicing really hard." Mr. Scary smiled kind of sad. "Yes, I'm sure you have, Junie B, but your toe is already sore, and I doubt if you'll feel like kicking a ball with it Friday." I sat there a minute, 'cause I never even thought of that problem before. And all of a sudden, my shoulders felt very slumping. I put my head on my desk, and I hid under my sweater, 'cause now I would never be the star of the kickball tournament, and that had to be the happiest daydream of my life. Chapter 4, Choices. Tuesday. Dear First Grade Journal, recess was not fun today. I sat on the playground, and I stared at my sore toe through my piggy toe window. Sheldon sat next to me, and he kept pressing on his red Band-Aid and saying, "Ouch!" I told him to knock it off. I am not in a good mood. From Junie B, first grader. After I got done writing, I heard talking in the front of the room. I looked up. Lucille was standing at Mr. Scary's desk. Camille and Chenille were standing there too, and all of them were blabbering at the exact same time. Mr. Scary covered his ears, and finally he said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa," at them, and he pointed for them to sit back down. And after that, Mr. Scary stood up, and he walked to the front of the room. "Boys and girls, it has come to my attention that not everyone in room 1 wants to play the kickball tournament," he said. His eyes glanced over to Camille and Chenille. "It seems that 2 of our classmates would rather be cheerleaders," he said, "and another one would like to be," this time his eyes glanced at Lucille, "homecoming queen," he said. Lucille sprang right up. "No, no, princess," she called out. "I want to be homecoming princess, Mr. Scary, not queen. Princesses are way cuter than queens, plus princesses aren't old." She looked at the children and fluffed herself. "Wait till you see me, everyone. I'm going to have a beautiful float made out of pink rose petals," she said, "and there will be a golden throne for me to sit on." She looked all around the room. "Maybe a few of you girls might like to be my attendants," she said, "but my Nana will have to look you over first." Mr. Scary went to the sink in the back of the room, and he took an aspirin. Room 1 started buzzing about Lucille. Then some of the children started thinking about different jobs that they could have in the tournament, too. "Hey, maybe I can be the game announcer or the loudspeaker," said Roger. "And after the game, I can pour root beer on all the winners." "Yeah," said Shirley, "and I could sell Rice Krispie treats. My mother always says those things are all profit." And just then May jumped up. "And I could do crowd control," she called out, "'cause I already have a badge at home, and so all I'll need is a big stick to poke people with and a gas mask." Mr. Scary took another aspirin. Then he walked back to his desk and he took a deep breath. Okay, here's the best I'm going to do for you guys, he said. I'll give everyone in here 2 choices of jobs. You can either play in the game as part of the team, or you can be a cheerleader. But that's it. That's my best offer. Lucille stood up at her desk. She flounced her dress, very upset, and then she plopped back down again. And after that, Sheldon stood up too, and he pointed to his Band-Aid. "But what about this, Mr. Scary? Have you forgotten about my injury?" he asked. "I can't play in the game, remember? And cheerleading is just for girls." Mr. Scary frowned. "Well, that's not actually true, Sheldon. Lots of colleges have male cheerleaders," he said. "But since you and Junie B both have injuries, I'll let you 2 pick different jobs to do in the tournament, okay? That would only be fair." Sheldon looked relieved. "Yes," he said, "I was hoping you'd say that, because I already know what I'm going to do." And he quick climbed on his chair and made an announcement. "I'm going to do a halftime show. I'm going to do a halftime show," he shouted. Mr. Scary grabbed him and put him back in his seat. "A halftime show?" he asked, kind of curious. Sheldon nodded real fast. Yes, he said, "'cause my dad used to play the cymbals in his high school band, and he already taught me how. Plus he still has his band uniform, so my mother can fix it to fit me. And then I can march and play the cymbals like a real professional band guy." Sheldon clapped his hands together. "And wait, here's another idea. Maybe I can sing too, 'cause I learned some songs at Christmas time, and my dad says I can almost carry a tune." Mr. Scary smiled. "You know what, Sheldon? I think that's a fine idea," he said. "In fact, I think a little halftime entertainment would be excellent." Sheldon clapped some more. "Yay! I start practicing as soon as I get home," he said. Mr. Scary smiled again, and then he raised his eyebrows, and he looked back at me. "So, Junie B, what do you think? If Sheldon does a halftime show, would you like to be in it too?" he asked. "I bet playing an instrument wouldn't be too hard on your sore toe, and I'm sure Sheldon would be happy to have another band member." I did a loud groan, and then I put my head back on my desk, and I covered up with my sweater again. Chapter 5. After school, lemonade, Chapter 5, lemonade. After school, Mr. Scary called Mother at her work, and he told her that I got disappointed about the tournament. That's how come for dinner that night Mother made my favorite meal of paschetti and meatballs. Plus, she and Daddy tried to be extra nice to me. "I know you're upset about not being in the kickball game," Mother said, "but everyone has disappointments in life, honey." I was still in a bad mood. "I hate disappointments. I hate them," I said. Daddy patted me. "Yes, well, we all hate being disappointed, Junie B," he said, "but Mr. Scary said you can still do something fun in the tournament." I did a mad breath. "I hate that dumb tournament. I hate it," I said. Daddy squinted his eyes at me. He said to please stop saying hate. "I hate saying hate. I hate it," I said. After that, Daddy picked me up and he carried me to my room for a time out. It was not unexpected. I waited till he was gone. "I hate timeouts. I hate them," I whispered to my stuffed elephant named Philip Johnny Bob. "I hate them too, Junie B," he said back. "I hate everything you hate. You and me hate everything exactly the same." I hugged him very tight. I love that guy. After that, both of us flopped on my bed and we calmed ourselves down. Pretty soon, Mother came and got me, and she took me back to the table. I did not talk to Daddy. Also, I did not talk to my baby brother named Ollie, 'cause he's just learning words and all he keeps saying is moo. Mother tried to be nice some more. "Are you sure you wouldn't like to be a cheerleader, Junie B?" she said. "I know you couldn't jump up and down on your sore toe, but you could still yell and shout for your team." Daddy did a chuckle. "And yelling and shouting are right up your alley," he teased. I did not laugh at that remark. Daddy poked me. "Oh, don't be so glum," he said. "Being a cheerleader wouldn't be so bad, would it? Every little girl likes cheerleading." I rolled my eyes at that ceiling. "But I'm not every little girl, Daddy. I am just me, Junie B. Jones, and I don't want to be a cheerleader. I want to be on the kickball team. And just then my nose started to sniffle very much. I even had a daydream about it, I said. I was the star of the whole entire game, and it was very wonderful, only now that is never going to happen. Mother gave me a hug. Well, no one can be the star all the time, she said. It's just like I said earlier. Everyone has disappointments sometimes. Right, said Daddy. And when life hands you lemons, you have to learn to make lemonade. I looked weird at that man. Huh? I said. What's lemonade got to do with this? Mother smiled. It's just a saying, Junie B, she said. It means that when life goes a little bit sour, you need to find a way to sweeten it up a bit. Just then Daddy went to the refrigerator and he took out 3 lemons. Here, look, I'll show you, he said, and he held up the lemons for me to see. See what I have here, he said. They're just 3 sour old lemons, right? I did a shrug. I guess so. Daddy grinned. Ah, but maybe these sour lemons are more fun than they look, he said. Then one by one, he threw each lemon into the air. And wowie, wow, wow, he started to juggle them. I mean it. He did. My daddy juggled those lemons way high in the air, and I didn't even know that he had that talent. I clapped and cheered, very thrilled. Ollie clapped too. Also, he said, moo. Then all of us started to laugh, and Daddy did a bow. Do you see what I mean now? He asked. I turned 3 sour lemons into something more fun. And you can do the same thing, Junie B, said Mother. All you have to do is think of something fun to do in the kickball tournament. And then your sour situation will turn happy too. Understand? I nodded very fast. I do, Mother. I do understand, I said. And guess what else? I think I already know what I'm going to do. And I jumped down from my chair and I picked up the lemons from the counter. I think I'm going to juggle, I said, very joyful. I'll juggle in Sheldon's halftime show, and then everyone will clap and cheer, and I will be the star of that whole production. After that, I stood in the middle of the kitchen just like Daddy did, and one by one I threw each lemon into the air. I kept my eyes on them very perfect, only too bad for me because 2 of them crashed into the table. Plus the other one hit Ollie in the head and he started to cry, and I patted him real fast. Then I quick picked up the lemons and hurried up to my room, 'cause juggling was going to take a little practice apparently. And there were only 3 days left until Friday. Chapter 6. Practicing. Wednesday. Dear First Grade Journal, last night Daddy helped me practice my juggling. I kept on throwing those lemons into the air, and they kept on crashing into my floor. Finally, I got frustration in me, and I threw them as high as I could. The first one cracked my ceiling light. The next one fell on my bed and knocked out my raggedy Andy named Larry. Lemons are not as easy as they look. Friday is only 2 more days away. I am getting stress in me. From Junie B, first grader. As soon as I finished writing, Mr. Scary walked to the front of the room and he asked us to put away our journals. Boys and girls, there are a few more things I need to tell you about the kickball tournament on Friday, he said. For one thing, today and tomorrow we'll be taking extra long recess periods to get ready. He looked around the class. Those of you playing on the team will be practicing on the softball field, and those of you who are cheerleaders will be practicing on the sidelines, he told us. Camille and Chenille jumped right up from their seats. Mr. Scary, we have good news, said Camille. Yes, we do, said Chenille. Our mother was a cheerleader in college, and last night she taught us some cheers. Right, said Camille, and so today Chenille and I can teach them to the other girls. Mr. Scary smiled, very pleased. That's excellent news, girls, he said. I'll put you 2 in charge of teaching the cheers, and then I will have more time to work with the kickball team and the halftime show. He looked back in my direction. Oh, and speaking of the halftime show, have you made a decision about what you want to do yet, Junie B? I started to nod real happy, and then all of a sudden I stopped on account of what I told Room 1 that I was going to juggle in the halftime show, only I still couldn't learn that talent by Friday. Then some of the children might shout boo at me, plus others might laugh and laugh. I tapped on my desk, very thinking. But, on the other hand, maybe I should tell my class the whole entire truth, 'cause Mother says the truth is always best. Only that is not the truth, of course. But maybe this one time the truth might be the easiest. Junie B, said my teacher again. I stood up at my desk and I looked at Room 1 in their eyes. Okay, here's the whole entire truth, I said. I'm trying to learn how to juggle for Sheldon's halftime show. Only please do not get your hopes up, people, 'cause I maybe might not learn in time. And so if I don't juggle at halftime, there is no laughing or booing allowed, and I mean it. I quick sat back down again. Lenny and Herb turned around in their seats. Whoa, you're learning to juggle? Said Lenny. That's cool. Yeah, it is cool, said Herbert. I wish I could juggle. And May rolled her eyes. I don't, she said. What's so fun about throwing stuff in the air? And anyway, juggling is only for the circus. Who ever heard of juggling in a halftime show? I wrinkled my eyebrows, very serious. That's a good question, May. Let me think, I said. And then I leaned real close to her face. Me! That's who, I said. Lenny and Herb laughed very loud, and then Sheldon looked back at me and he gave me a happy thumbs up. I smiled, 'cause what do you know? This time, the truth worked beautifully. Chapter 7. Fun with me and Sheldon. At recess, Mr. Scary got the kickball team started on their practice, and then he came over to Sheldon and me, and he helped us with our halftime show. First, he gave me a woodblock from the music teacher's room, plus also he gave me a drumstick. If you hit this woodblock while you march, you and Sheldon will be able to stay in step, he explained. I smiled, very thrilled, 'cause hitting stuff is right up my alley. I whacked that thing with my drumstick, then Sheldon crashed his cymbals together, and ha! That was beautiful music. And after that, Mr. Scary told us to form a line behind him, and then all three of us marched around and around the playground. And guess what? My woodblock kept us in step very perfect. After a while, we marched over to a microphone. It was on the stand in the grass. This is where you're going to sing, Sheldon, Mr. Scary said. When you sing into this microphone, the whole audience will be able to hear you. Mr. Scary smiled. We won't turn it on yet, but you can still practice your song, okay? Okay, said Sheldon, real thrilled. And then he stood up straight and tall, and he walked over to the microphone, and he started to sing. Hark, herald the angels sings. And he played the cymbals while he sang. It was very lovely, sort of, but Mr. Scary's face did not look delighted. He held his hand up. Could you hold it a second there, Sheldon, he called. Could you stop singing for a minute, please? And Sheldon stopped. Mr. Scary walked over to the microphone. Okay, well, that's a very nice Christmas carol, Sheldon, he said. And you were singing it beautifully, but the trouble is, it really isn't Christmas, is it? So I'm wondering if maybe you know a different song? And Sheldon thought for a minute. How about I Have a Little Dreidel? He asked. I know that one. Mr. Scary ran his fingers through his tired hair. Yes, well, that's sort of the same problem, isn't it? He said. It's not really a Hanukkah either. Mr. Scary bent down next to him. Do you know any songs besides holiday songs? He asked. Or is there some other talent you have, Sheldon? Like, can you whistle maybe, or do a magic trick? Sheldon thought some more. I can blow milk bubbles out of my nose, he said, but that's mostly only happens when I'm choking. Mr. Scary started rubbing the sides of his head. He was getting another headache in there, I think. Then all of a sudden, Sheldon's whole face lighted up. Hey, wait! I just thought of another song I could sing, he said. Happy birthday, Mr. Scary! I know all the words to Happy Birthday, and that isn't even a holiday song." Our teacher stood there a second, and then he nodded his head and he said, "Happy Birthday would be just dandy." And Sheldon started his performance all over again. He sang the song and played the cymbals very good. After he got done, he did a somersault. I do not know why. Then hooray, hooray! It was finally time for me. I quick put down my woodblock, and then I reached into my pocket and I took out my pretend lemons and I started to pretend I was juggling. Juggling for pretend is way easier than juggling for real. I skipped and twirled and danced, and Mr. Scary and Sheldon clapped and clapped. I did a bow, and then I picked up my woodblock again, and I hit it with my stick, and me and Sheldon marched off the field. We jumped all around and did a high five, and then Sheldon picked me up and tried to twirl me around, only he wasn't actually strong enough, and so mostly I just dragged my toes. His face turned reddish and sweaty. He put me down and wiped his head with his sleeve. "Whew, you weigh a ton, girl," he said. I did a smile. I like that odd boy. I really, really do. Chapter 8, Halftime. Dear First Grade Journal, yesterday when I got home from school, Daddy was waiting for me, and he had bought me a juggle book at the bookstore. It was for children 6 and up, and 6 and up is my exact age. Daddy and I read each page very careful. Then I did the whole entire book step by step. And what do you know? After I got done, I still couldn't juggle. I'm getting fed up with this stupid talent, and Daddy said maybe I will learn it tomorrow. That man is just kidding himself. I am doomed. From Junie B, first grader. I closed my journal and I watched the clock for the rest of the afternoon because I just wanted to get home and practice some more. Daddy came home from work to help me again, and he tried to help me juggle for hours and hours and hours. Only the most I could ever juggle was 2 dumb lemons, and 2 dumb lemons is not even juggling. 2 dumb lemons is just throwing lemons in the air and catching them, and I'm not going to school tomorrow, and I mean it. Friday. Dear First Grade Journal, I am at school, and I do not know what went wrong on account of this morning I told Mother I broke my leg, and then I limped and limped all over the house, and the next thing you know, I was on the bus. I am wearing the halftime costume Mother made for me. My hat is made out of an oatmeal box, and I look like a nitwit. From Junie B, first grader. I glanced my eyes all around the room. The children in room 1 looked very cute. The kickball players were wearing matching red and white shirts, and all of their shirts said, "We are room number 1." The cheerleaders matched each other too. They had on red skirts and white sweaters. I looked at Sheldon. His daddy's band jacket was way too giant, and his band hat came over his ears. He looked like a nitwit too. I put my head down on my desk, very glum. My oatmeal box hat fell on the floor. May started to laugh. "I hope that doesn't happen when you juggle today, Junie Jones," she said, very meanish. And she raised her eyebrows. "You are going to juggle, aren't you?" I didn't answer that girl. Instead, I turned my head to the wall, and I closed my eyes, and I wished to turn invisible. I wished and wished with all my might. Then finally, I opened my eyes again, and I turned back to May, and I stuck out my tongue at her. She stuck out hers right back at me. I did a sigh. Bad news. I wasn't invisible. At 10 o'clock, we went to the softball field. There were a million jillion parents there, I bet. Mother and Daddy were sitting in the first row of the bleachers, and Grandpa and Grandma Miller were sitting right next to them. They were holding my baby brother named Ollie. He was mooing. All of them waved at me. I did not wave back, because I was still trying to be invisible, of course. Me and Sheldon sat down together. He looked at the people in the bleachers, and then he quick turned around again, and he pulled his band hat over his face, and he giggled very nutty. "Please stop doing that," I said. "You are just calling attention to yourself." And Sheldon put a cymbal on his head. I rolled my eyes at that dumb guy, and then I hid my face in my skirt, and I didn't watch the tournament. There were 2 games going at once. Room 1 was playing Room 2, and Room 3 was playing Room 4. I could hear the cheerleaders cheering real loud. Room 1 was winning, I think. I listened to the cheering for a very long time, and then all of a sudden I heard lots of whistles and yelling, and I looked up to see what happened. Oh no! Room 1 had just won the first game, and now it was time for halftime. Mr. Scary came over to get us. I tried to hide behind Sheldon, but Mr. Scary already saw me. He said it was perfectly normal for me to be nervous, but I should just relax and try to enjoy myself. "This is going to be a day you'll never forget," he told me. My skin did a shiver. "Yeah, only that's exactly what I'm afraid of," I said. After that, Mr. Scary took me and Sheldon by our hands, and he walked us to the field. My legs felt like silly string. Mr. Scary went out to the microphone, and he made an announcement to the people. "Welcome to our halftime show, everyone," he said. "While rooms 1 and 4 are resting for the final game of the tournament, 2 of my students will present some very special entertainment." He winked at me and Sheldon. "Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I am proud to present the musical genius of Sheldon Potts and the unique talents of Junie B. Jones." As soon as he finished, he pointed at me and Sheldon, and he gave us the signal to go. Sheldon did a whimper. He did not move. I looked at his face. It was the color of paste. Mr. Scary hurried over, and he gave Sheldon a nudge. "Okay, you two, go," he said. "Take off." Very slow, I raised up my woodblock, and I hit it with my drumstick real light. Tap. "Louder," Mr. Scary said. "You've got to play it louder, Junie B, and with a little bit more pep, okay?" I took a big breath. Tap, tap, tap. Mr. Scary nodded. Yes, better," he said. I swallowed hard. Tap, tap, tap. Mr. Scary gave me a thumbs up. "That's it, Junie B, that's it," he said. Keep it up. I kept it up. Tap, 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 tap. Then pretty soon my feet started tapping too, and they marched me right onto the field. I looked behind me, and Sheldon was still standing on the sideline. His face looked even pastier, and I ran back there and tugged on his arm. "Come on, Sheldon, let's go," I said. Sheldon plopped down in the grass. No, I can't, he said. I made a fist at that boy. "Oh, yes, you can, Sheldon. You've got to. This whole stupid show was your idea, and I'm not doing it by myself." After that, I helped Sheldon stand up, and I pulled him onto the field, and that's when the worstest thing of all happened, 'cause Room 2 started laughing their heads off. And it was the meanest laughing I ever heard. Sheldon froze very stiff. He stood there like a statue, and he wouldn't even budge. Then all of a sudden, crash! He dropped his cymbals, and he ran across the playground as fast as a speedboat. One of the teachers ran after him, but Sheldon zoomed faster and faster, and then he ran behind the swing sets, and he circled around the monkey bars, and he kept running and running till he was all the way behind the school. And what do you know? Sheldon never came back. Chapter 9. Plops. Room 2 laughed even louder. Rooms 3 and 4 laughed too. I hated that mean noise. I hated it. Tears came into my eyes, and my nose started sniffling very much. I hanged my head so no one could see, and aha! That's when I spotted them. Sheldon's cymbals. They were still lying in the grass right next to my feet. I picked them up, and I crashed them together so I wouldn't hear the laughing. And it worked, I tell you, it worked. I couldn't hear the laughing at all. And that's how come I crashed them again and again and again until my arms got tired. And guess what? When I finally stopped, no one was even laughing anymore. I felt a little better. Cymbals were very enjoyable. And after that, I stood in the middle of the field and I rocked back and forth on my feet, very thinking, because I didn't know what to do next, of course, and just then I heard shouting. "Boring!" yelled a voice. "Don't just stand there! Do something!" yelled a different voice. I looked up. The boys who shouted were being taken away by their teacher, but it was already too late. More tears were coming in my eyes, and Mr. Scary started coming to get me. My brain began to panic, 'cause this was the stupidest halftime show I ever even saw. The children started laughing again. They would be laughing at me for the rest of their life, probably. And then, all of a sudden, my eyes glanced over to Sheldon's microphone. And what do you know? A brand new idea popped in my head, and it's called, "Hey, maybe I could sing a song just like Sheldon was going to do." And I grinned real big. Yes, I could sing "The Sun'll Come Out Tomorrow" from the hit musical Annie, 'cause I love that tune, I tell you. And I hurried over to the microphone, and then I opened my mouth to sing, only I couldn't actually remember how that song started. Mr. Scary was getting closer. My brain panicked some more, and then out of nowhere I heard a plop. I looked down. Something had landed on the ground next to my boots. I looked closer. It was a flaky biscuit, I believe. Plop, plop, plop. 2 more biscuits and a small plum. Then suddenly there was another fuss in the stands, and 2 more kids were getting led away by their teacher. That's when I got it. That's when I figured out those meanie kids had thrown food at me. And throwing food is the biggest insult you can even do. At first my face turned red as a tomato, and then I felt myself getting mad. And I got madder and madder, and then I picked up those biscuits and I started to throw them back. Only all at once my brain changed its mind, and instead of throwing them back, I put 2 of the biscuits in my right hand, and I held the other biscuits in my left hand. And then I tossed them in the air, one by one, exactly like my juggling book said to. And then magic happened, I tell you. It did, it really did, because for just a few teensy seconds, I juggled those biscuits way high in the air. I juggled them as perfect as I could be, and I caught them too. I caught all 3 of those flaky guys, and then the whole entire bleachers started to clap and clap and clap, and then they cheered and cheered and cheered, and the sound of that noise was better than the bestest daydream I ever had. I did a bow, and the people kept on clapping. I did another bow, and then I picked up Sheldon's cymbals, and I marched right off the field. And guess what? It was the proudest darn moment of my life. The rest of the day was a joy. We had a happy party, and I smiled till my cheeks hurt. Also, I wrote in my journal again. Friday afternoon. Dear first grade journal, we won the tournament. Room 1 won the whole entire kickball tournament. And so, hooray, hooray, Mr. Scary let us have a party for the whole rest of the day. And guess what? They found Sheldon hiding behind a bush, 'cause he got scared silly, apparently. Only finally he calmed himself down, and now he's back to his regular nutty self. And guess what else? I'm not even mad at him for running away. On account if Sheldon didn't run away, I never would have juggled probably. Mother and Daddy hugged me at the party, and Daddy said I turned biscuits into lemonade. And that is a hoot, I tell you. And then Mother said the bestest thing of all. She said, "Today I was a star." And I really liked the sound of that. I really, really did. Happy face. From Junie B, first grader, Star. so wonderful, Junie B. She's just the greatest. I hope you learn from her and her trying to be positive all the time and thinking of things and being a wonderful, wonderful kindergartner and first grader, one-man band. Until next time, boys and girls. Bye-bye.